Welcome to the third session of Ideas Community Coaching for LinkedIn. We have Dr. Kristen Malik here to talk to us about how to create a plan for our content and how to make that efficient and helpful. And so we don't get bogged down and try to come up with creative ideas. We can be smart about how we engage with LinkedIn. So with that, I'm just going to hand it over to Kristen.
Awesome. Thank you. I am super pumped to share today's topic, and this is why. We all talk about, but it doesn't matter, faculty, admin, staff, program managers, everybody. We're always talking about we don't have time, we don't have resources, right? And so I said, how can I most effectively teach about the efficiency and effectiveness of LinkedIn? And I said, well, I have to practice what I preach, right? And so I contacted Mel, who's at UNL, who's here with me, and she's on the call. She's actually just now in the office next door to me, and I'll explain why. That's why she doesn't have her fun bookcase behind her. And I said, hey, Mel, can you come over to my office 30 minutes before the session starts today and log into your ChatGPT for me? And she said, okay. And then she came over 30 minutes ago, right? It's 35 minutes ago now. And she logged into her ChatGPT, and I have developed an entire content plan for a GP or for an IDEA program. We're no longer GP IDEA, right? For an IDEA program. And I'm going to take you through everything I did, how I set it up, how I prompted it. And I also have a Google Sheet that I'm going to drop a link in the chat. And it's going to go through the whole process and themes and a sample content calendar and everything that I developed literally in less than an hour. So I'm super excited to share this with you. And I'm really glad that ChatGPT was working exactly how it should today. So I'm dropping in the chat right now a Google Sheet link. It should be a Google Sheet link. If it's not, then I'm going to get really scared now because it says docs. Okay, it is in fact what I want it to be. So that's good. And I will share my screen as well because I know that we are recording. And Catherine, you can absolutely send out this link in all of your follow-up materials. So it should be a view only. And as a view only, then you can make a copy to your own personal account as well. And so I believe that you're all seeing the Google Sheet right now, correct? It doesn't have like the green around it. Okay, cool. So there's a couple of different tabs here in this Google Sheet. There's process and themes, things to keep in mind, and a sample month. And we're going to go through it all together. And then I'm actually going to pull up Mel's ChatGPT, and I'm going to show you all the prompts that I did to prime what chat looks like. So if you are wanting to use an AI, it does not have to be ChatGPT. It could be Gemini. It can be, there's so many different large language models, LLMs or AIs, right? There is actually a difference between a large language model and an AI, though the general public and all of us tend to use them interchangeably. But there's so many different ones you can use. I'm using chat as an example today, but you could use the same prompts across any of the large language models that you would want. And so I've put different steps in here to take a large language model or AI from a one-off content partner where you type something in into like a really strategic partner with insights that's really helpful to your social media or to anything else you're doing, classes, content, really anything. I have a different project folder set up for all my classes that I teach, and I prime them with exactly what I'm doing, and then I use them. I use the LLM, the AI, to come up with really interesting and interactive activities. I use it for a lot of things, and we can look at those. So the first thing that I always do is I start a separate thread in chat. It's called a chat or a project. I start a separate one just for what I'm doing. So in this case, it's LinkedIn. So I start a dedicated project or dedicated chat just for my LinkedIn posts. And so you can see I've got some notes in here because I know, right, we like to share these with our friends and colleagues. So I put some notes in here just for why I do that, right? When you're in a separate chat or a separate project folder, then you can upload materials that have already been written. So you can have chat take it from an existing article that's been published into a sufficient LinkedIn post. There's lots of different uploads and things that you can do. But I always have a separate chat for my LinkedIn posts per program because I want each of my programs or each of my LinkedIn accounts to have a set tone, right? And so just like an intern or a student, you have to train chat in exactly what you want it to do. So that's why I start with a dedicated thread. And then the second step is to train it on your organization, right? So I have a bunch of notes in here. Now, people do training a little bit differently, and I'm going to show you how I do training and why I think it's the most effective. But sometimes when you look up like how to train chat in whatever, then they'll say, well, you need to upload everything to chat, right? Like you need to upload your mission, you need to upload your vision, you need to upload that. And that's not very effective for me because then I have to find all that stuff, right? And that takes time. And maybe I don't have all of that stuff available and I don't have the resources, right? And so we're trying to be effective and we're trying to be efficient. And so I tell chat to do the research and then I approve it, right? And I'll show you how I do that when I share the screen with chat so you can see exactly how I do that. So I'm going to skip over this one with all the details because that's what I'm going to show you when I share chat. But I train chat on my organization. And then we train chat on our posting preferences. So when I am talking to chat as if I were talking to an intern or a student or a staff member, I say, no, I actually want it to be more conversational. I want it to be this length. I want it to have this many hashtags. And you'll see in the example how we do that. And then you would actually teach chat how to create from scratch or repurpose. Sometimes people don't go in and do this. Sometimes they're just like, okay, just draft everything from scratch for me. If I have available resources, like say my program administrator has published an article in my university's news, right? So whether that's K-State Today, which I know the name of because I worked at K-State, or whether that's like the Nebraska Daily, right, article, then I can take something from there, copy and paste the link and say, I want a LinkedIn post for this. That would be repurposing existing content. Or if I have any promotional flyers, or if I have a special event invitation, I can actually upload those into chat and have it make LinkedIn posts for me. I personally don't do a ton with that because it takes time, right? Where I have to actually upload it. I like to sit on my chat for 20 minutes once a month and come up with a whole month of content. And that's what I have time and resources for, right? But it is a category there. Then we teach chat to edit and personalize. So I would say the very first time you're setting up a chat thread for your LinkedIn, you probably want to spend about an hour just training it. And then after that, it's like 10 minutes a month, right? To get all your content, which is pretty awesome. So these are kind of the steps, and you'll see how I do that in chat. And again, Mel just came over like 30 minutes before the session started, so it did not take that long at all. Things to keep in mind. This is actually all things that I typed into chat, and then it gave me all of the details. So when you see, every time you see an M dash, which is the really long dash, if you see that consistently, that's a good sign that it's at ChatGPT, right? So what I did is I went to chat and I said, hey, I'm giving this 15-minute presentation and then it turns into Q&A. And this is the things I'm looking for. I said, I want to be able to tell them how to know if a post is chat generated or not. So that way they know not to do that. And chat will tell you these things. Like, this is what makes me me, right? So when you talk about formatting and style giveaways, that signal that a post is ChatGPT. So when I'm on LinkedIn and I'm scrolling through everybody's content, some of it's obviously written by AI and some of it's written by a human. And there are telltale signs that something's written by an AI. And the things that stick out to me the most is the M dashes and the emojis or emoticons. Those are telltale signs that something's written by chat. And so what I do is when I take all my chat content is I go through and I delete the M dashes and I delete the emoticons, or I just tell chat, don't do that, right? Don't do that for these posts. But this is a really interesting list that I also put here in this Google Sheet, so that way you have access to it. So style giveaways, that something's AI generated, the overuse of the M dashes and ellipses. Some people write M dashes EM, Some people write it as an M, right? Tomato, tomato, same thing. The second one, the emoticons we talked about. Chat has a really bad habit of putting an emoticon at the beginning of a post and for the bullet points. So instead of doing bullet points, they'll do different emoticons. That's a telltale sign that it's AI, right? So I just delete them all. Chat also likes to do random bolding, italics, and line breaks because it wants to add emphasis to different things. But when you overdo that, that's not how we naturally talk, right? We'll naturally write a couple paragraphs. So what I'll do is I'll take my AI post and then I'll highlight it all and I will unbold everything. And then I'll go through and strategically bold things if I think it's really important. But most people don't go out of their way to bold things on LinkedIn because it's actually a little difficult. It's not as simple as highlighting text and hitting Control B because LinkedIn's not made that way. So you would actually have to take it from something else and copy and paste it in. So it's a sign that it's AI generated. AI also likes to do overly structured lists and headings, and AI also loves hashtag blocks. So AI is really bad for that. If you ask ChatGPT to give you a LinkedIn post, it loves to add the hashtags at the bottom. And I kept them for some posts, but I find that those posts don't do very well because I think LinkedIn algorithm knows that if you consistently have 5 hashtags, that it's probably AI generated. So you can use 1 to 3, shake them up, or just delete them, right? And so then the other things that are interesting, the top 10 ways people can tell the LinkedIn post is AI generated. That's not just grammar, right? Grammar or formatting. When it sounds emotionally flat or it's too neutral or things feel perfectly balanced, it's like talking to a robot, right? There's no emotion, there's no vocal variety, right? It doesn't have lib details, which is number 5 down here, right? Overuses transition words. We don't talk like that, right? How often have you written emails that say furthermore at the beginning of a paragraph? Like hardly ever. Sometimes we'll use them, but we don't use them a lot. Things that are generic or the voice of everyone, because AI is everyone, right? It's a combination of everything from the internet that's then given to you in a summary form. So you can train ChatGPT to say, I want things to be super specific, or I want every post to have one flaw, or I want every post to end with a controversial question. And these are just things to keep in mind, right? Of how we can tell that something is ChatGPT. All right, I'm now going to pull up Mel's ChatGPT up here so you can kind of see what I've done here. So I've already pre-prompted this. And so just that way, because we're streaming live and we're recording it, I didn't want there to be any issues, right? Or something to crash or anything like that. But this is the beginning of the thread, right? So when I go to a chat, I start a folder over here. So on the left-hand side, you can click new project, or if you just want it to be a chat, then you can click new chat. The reason why I do folders is when I upload materials into it, or I add rules for a project, the project holds on to them longer. So if you have things as a chat, then after a while, it can, the materials that you upload can no longer be referenced, if that makes sense. So if you're uploading a lot of materials, then the projects keep those materials longer. So that's just something to keep in mind, right? I like to have it as projects. So here I put LinkedIn for idea programs, and this is the master for family and consumer sciences. It's just so awesome that we have someone on here, right? And so this is Mel's chat. So I like to prime with the research, right? And I don't want to tell chat about my program. I want to have chat go out and look at materials and then tell me what it understands. Because if I tell chat, here's my mission and vision, it's then going to make up lots of things on the background. Because again, it's the availability of the entire internet. And those things may or may not be true, right? Quality in, quality out. So I started chat with, can I take you through prompts one by one and have you answer them before I get to the real ask that I want to do, right? Because if I were to come in here and say, hey, chat, I am a program manager for a UNL IDEA program, and I'm looking to make a LinkedIn content calendar. There's a lot of inputs that go into that chat could get wrong, right? It's kind of like a Google search term. So first I need to make sure chat understands what IDEA is. Then I need to make sure chat understands what my program is. Then I need to make sure chat understands what the goal of what I'm trying to do is. Who is my prospective student? Is my prospective student? There's a series, right? Strategically of what I need to do. And again, I spent 20 minutes at most priming this because Mel came over 30 minutes before this meeting. Okay. So I moved very, very quickly. So I said, can I take you through these prompts one by one? It's important for me to say one by one because if you don't say one by one, chat will try to skip ahead and give you everything, right? And you want to correct along the way because right now you're in training mode. So you say, absolutely, Mel, that sounds perfect. And then I said, who I am. I'm the program manager for IDEA at UNL. I'd love to get your insight. Can you first tell me what IDEA is based on your understanding? Now, IDEA is a common word through the internet. So then I gave it the reference of what the website is. And for some reason, they couldn't open the link directly, but then it asked me for clarification. So IDEA education. And then it gave me a summary, right? So this is what IDEA is, key features, value proposition, right? Why it matters, what it means, and takes you all these. Here's your organization and structural details, your strengths, opportunities, potential challenges, right? So chat gives you a lot of information, which is why it's really important to go one by one, right? So cool, that's awesome. So then I said, I'm trying to recruit students to my program that's run through Ideas because that was my goal for this, right? Can you help me understand who my students are, right? Now it's still in the mode of IDEA, okay? So what we know from IDEA's published info, and you can see it's referencing certain websites, right? And so they all start with IDEA, right? But then there's also one other that you could click on. Oh, of course, it's going to take me away from that. But there's different ones here. I'm clicking instead of doing the arrow, right? There's others. Right, so it's referenced 2 different sites on the IDEA site to get this. All right, then you've got likely and common characteristics of IDEA student personas. So this would be all of IDEA students. You can already see if I wasn't training chat for my particular target market, for my particular program, this is what it's pulling from. And even though this is IDEA's prospective students, this isn't the UNL Family Consumer Sciences IDEA programs potential market, right? Which is way more narrow. So it's giving me all this stuff, but I haven't trained it to narrow in, right? So then you could say what you should check locally for, cool. Then I go into, I run the UNL Family Consumer Sciences Education Program. Can you tell me the demographics and psychographics of my potential students for this program? And then I give it the link, right? So I'm still training it. So then it tells me all the things, cool, constraints, signals. Here's the demographics, predominantly female, non-traditional adult learners, spread across states, educational background. It tells you all these things, which is amazing, right? And then it gives you the psychographics. So psychographics and demographics are a little different if you're not in the marketing world, right? So demographics is these things, gender, life stage, geographic diversity, educational background. Psychographics is motivations, needs, preferences, and barriers, which is how people make decisions. So psychographics are really important to look at. So you can see here that it lists all of these things, right? It also tells you some of your recruit messaging of what words you should use, right? And I don't have to read through all of these things, right? And I didn't. Just training chat and exactly what I need, right? It's got other influencing factors. It's got sample student personas with messaging hooks. So it gives you so much information. It told me all of these on one prompt, right? And then I said, thank you, as you would an intern. And then I said, if I was trying to put together a social media campaign in order to show what our program's doing and to recruit new students, what platform should you suggest? Right? So I'm bringing it down what I call the funnel, very, very broad, a little more narrow, a little more narrow, a little more narrow. So it has all the information that's going into my decision. Now here's interesting, right? So specific to family consumer sciences, because it's predominantly female and it's predominantly non-traditional and a little bit older, it actually recommends Facebook and LinkedIn, right? So it says Facebook and then LinkedIn. And then Instagram, moderate priority, right? YouTube, optional, Pinterest, optional, right? And then it's got your mix summary here of exactly what your goal would be on every platform. Super interesting, right? Just from chat. And what am I going to do with that? I may or may not do anything with that, but I'm training chat, right? Super interesting. And then I say, I love this. Let's focus on LinkedIn. I know that LinkedIn has different types of pages, personal, business, groups. If I wanted to have a LinkedIn presence, what structure would you recommend? Right. And this was a big thing in our meeting last time, right? Do I have a spotlight page? Do I have a group? Do I have just my personal, like all of these conversations, right? And look at Mel. She's so fantastic. It's such a strategic question, Mel. Great job. It's a fantastic and strategic question, Mel. I'm so glad you're thinking about this. And so then it talks about the goal, it talks about your page structure options, right? And how you can to lay it out. Do you want an organization page, a showcase page, a group, etc.? And then it gives you the recommended structure, which is amazing. It says start with a showcase page in your case, right? Then you use personal profiles. Then you would do a LinkedIn group for current students and alumni, and then you would do partner posts. It even tells you an example hierarchy, right? It's wild. Okay. It tells you your voice and your content examples. And then again, I don't have to read all of this. I'm training chat. I read enough to ask the next question. So I'm super well informed as I'm getting down to the point, right? And then I said, okay, if I was starting with a showcase page, would it be ideal to be under College of Education Human Sciences or under IDEA? Or can it be both? Because I don't know. I mean, honestly, I know, but this is an example for you all. So then the short answer is they would recommend doing the showcase page under UNL CEHS and not IDEA. But then it talks about why and also how to incorporate IDEA. So it's very strategic, right? Authority and trust, visibility and reach, control and alignment. Why not to place it under IDEA, right? Confusing prospective students. You're competing for attention alongside other programs from different universities, the Tone of Ideas page, so you can see all this on there. But then it still talks about how you leverage IDEA, which is pretty awesome. Optimal structure, bonus tip, right? So then here I am talking about resources because none of us got time for that, right? So I asked chat, you mentioned a showcase page in a group. I don't have time or resources. Can I effectively do both? They seem to target different target markets. Tell me about the time commitment and resources for each or both. I want to make sure I'm setting myself up for success. Again, Mel, such a smart and self-aware question. Great job, Mel. And then it tells you all the framing, right? Well, showcases your public brand. Your group is your private community space. Gives you a comparison. Showcase page and group, right? Your primary purpose, your audience is telling you all this, right? We're priming it. So that way chat then understands where my holdups are, what my primary audience is, how I can effectively do both. Okay, I'm going to focus on this, but in the future I could focus on this. It just has all that research, right, at its disposal. Talks about time commitment, right? I'm telling you, it does not take 4 hours to set this up. It's 20 minutes, but asking the questions, right? So strategic recommendations, then it tells you only build the showcase page right now, add the group later, and then how to get the best of both without doubling the work. So it's telling you the strategy. It's cool to know the strategy, but then I'm gonna ask it all different kinds of questions, right? I said, cool, let's start with the showcase page then. I want to do one theme for each day of the week. So example, Mondays are always one theme, Tuesdays are always this theme. Based on all that information you know about the program, can you suggest themes for me, right? Mel, I love where you're going with this. It's wonderful, consistent weekly themes, right? Now, in my own research that I did in your Google Sheet document that I gave you guys on your link, which apparently I've closed, which was not very smart of me. I put 20 sample themes on there. So you have 20 sample themes under the themes category. And so even though this is giving you an example of 5, I gave you a whole bunch of sample themes. So then the weekly theme framework for this showcase page, right? It tells you the days, what it would recommend, the theme name, the focus, and the purpose. And then it gives you example post ideas at the bottom. Do you see what chat's doing right here? Look at this. All these emoticons drive you crazy. That's like a dead giveaway that it's AI. So just delete them. Just delete them. Take them away. It also gives you optional posts for the weekends. We don't have time for that, right? So I'm going to tell chat we don't have time for that. So it talks about why the rhythm works, and you see the example content. You also see all these hashtags, right? Look at all these emoticons, right? So then I tell chat right up front, this is the training of the post, right? I don't like M dashes. I don't like emojis. I want 1 to 3 hashtags per post, no bolding or italicize. I'd love it if you can incorporate at least 1 tag to an outside page per week, right? Ideally per post, but per week, and no weekend posts. Perfect, Mel. Thanks for the clarity. And then it adjusts it all, right? So it changes, all your focus. You see there's no emojis. You see there's no M dashes or very few M dashes, right? And then it gives you some tag examples, strategies for success, and then you can build out a full content calendar, right? So that I did all of that in 20 minutes. So I could then come in here and say, awesome, if I could spell it right, awesome. Can I have 4 posts for Monday posts? And then it would give it to me. This is why I pre-prime it, because sometimes when the internet takes extra time, it goes a little slow. Perfect. You got it, Mel. Right. And so then you can see, because this is Mission Monday, what are we doing? So then it has all these things and I can copy and paste them straight into my document here. All right. I'm going to stop sharing just so I can pull back up that amazing document that now I've clicked out of. Cool. And then I will show you on the second screen here. So what I've done here is I gave you an example of how I set up mine, right? For my programs, for my personal page, even. I've shown that to you guys before on a non-recorded version. So if you show up live, you get some insights into some things that we don't record and share out to everybody. But I also run it like this for my personal page. So every day has a theme, and then I type in the type of image that I want. These are sample themes that you could do for your program. Again, if you're training chat to specific for your program, then it'll give you recommendations. And then you could say, yes, I like that. No, I don't like that, right? So for example, on Wednesday, I did faculty spotlight and thought leadership. So in hospitality right now, we have 4 faculty. So I don't want to post something every single week about faculty, right? We don't have enough faculty, and that would be like a huge drain and resource and time to be like, okay, I need something from you, right? So instead, I also did thought leadership. So anything that has to do with anything we're doing with our research or classes or anything that's cool, or faculty spotlight, right? And same on Friday, I did miscellaneous, because it's a catch-all. So if some of our students are doing events, or if we have like an alumni gathering, or if we're doing fundraising, or if we just have something really cool to share, we kind of need a day dedicated to sharing that, right? So that we can be consistent throughout. We just throw it all on Fridays, right? But we have so many themes down here. You can do impact numbers, throwback Thursday, future Fridays, right? Celebration posts, all the things. And then in this last tab, we have a sample social media calendar for the month. Now, you don't have to lay it out like I laid it out, right? This is what I use internally, because to me, it's a great visual of what I have for different things. I've got the themes and the color codes. This was stuff that I pulled, right, from chat and copied and pasted it. It took me less than 10 minutes, right, to copy and paste it in here. And then you just have to figure out, okay, can I do live images for this? Does this need to be a Canva image? I prefer live images because I don't have to make anything, right? So it's less time for me. So I will ask a colleague to send me a photo, or I will take a picture. I also do a variety of selfie pictures of me and other people, because LinkedIn likes that. They know it's not AI generated at that time, right? And then I also oversee student workers and interns. And then for companies, right? Like oftentimes there's an assistant, whether it's a VA or an executive assistant or somebody. So if they're putting all the text in here, then I can click approved, right? And then when they're going in here, then they can click that it was posted, right? So that's kind of where those come into, you don't have to have those, right? So that was a lot. It's a little bit more than 15 minutes, but I hope that was super helpful. What kind of questions do we have? It's like a lot though, right? Just seeing everything with the chat. It actually took me longer to explain why I did it than for me to actually do it. Because like, Mel was over here 30 minutes beforehand, and we've now been talking for 30 minutes, right? So, what kind of questions do we have?